morning, everybody. So this week I wanted to go with a true crime, so you gotta go with a super classic. So we went Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, which I gotta say, I'm a fake fan, man. I thought the 80s one was the original, but it's not. This was made in 1974, and this was a masterpiece. I had so much fun watching this. And I don't know, I do feel like it is perfectly possible that people in the 70s had very different reaction, but this was just a hoot and a half for me. Like,
Yeah, it wasn't very scary. The whole time I was sitting there and
no.
watching it, I was thinking that in my head too. I was like, damn, we've come a long way from this type of like scary. Like
Yeah.
this would barely grant like a PG-13 rating.
Oh yeah.
Like it was like
I
I,
honestly I think they can get away with PG for this rating. Like they
I feel
barely
like
showed blood when you think about it. Like,
I feel like they'd still push it into PG-13
well, he's killing
just
people.
to be safe.
So,
Yeah, he's killing
yeah.
people. What movie was it? Shit. There was a recent movie. I feel like it might have been a horror movie that came out, and people went crazy online because these parents were taking their younger children, I'm talking like 9, to go see it. And whatever it was, it's rated fucking PG-13. Hello, you don't know what ratings mean. And they were like freaking out about how this is inappropriate. I took my kid, and I want to say it was the Barbie movie. I want to say it was the Barbie movie. And they
You
started
gotta
freaking
be
out
really
about
dumb.
it. I think it was because I think they make jokes about like Ken not having a dick and stuff. And they
Oh
started
yeah.
like freaking out about that and being like, this is not for kids, Barbie, da 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 da. And it's like, do you not understand what fucking ratings mean?
And you must not have
They
even
do
seen a
it for a
preview.
reason.
You must have
Right.
only saw the word Barbie and then went, oh, that must be for like, did you even look up a
It's
preview? Like, nothing
it's
about
like the
that movie made me go, oh, I'm gonna take my kids to that. Like, none of the
like I'll take
previews.
my kid. I'll
Well,
take
yeah.
mine. But that's because it's like we have different boundaries and rules and stuff. But like it reminds me of like the parents who walk to a GameStop and don't know anything about games and buy like their 10-year-old San Andreas and then get
Mm,
mad about it. It's like
yeah.
you didn't do any kind of research about
They sell
anything
this
at
to
all.
kids. No.
No, they sold it to you, an
Yeah.
adult. What you do with it after that that's all on you, babes.
Right?
So sorry. But yeah, I feel like if something like this came out today, I feel like it would be pushing the PG-13 just because of like the subject matter.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
there's
yes.
like zero horror movies that aren't PG-13, even if they are the worst horror movies and they're
Oh,
not.
yeah?
Trust me,
What about Paranorman?
that's not that's bait. You know what I'm saying when I say horror
No, I
movie.
do. I just wanted to throw you off.
Yeah, like don't. That's like specific for
That
kids.
I love
It's a good
Paranorman
ass
though.
movie.
That is
It's a
so
good ass
I would
movie.
like every Halloween I'm like, "Hey guys, do you want to watch Paranorman? We want to watch Paranorman?" And they're like, "No, mom, we don't want to watch I'm like, "I don't know how I'm related to any of you." Like,
I think that's one that I haven't showed Firefly yet. She
uh,
watched Coraline when she was like 6 or 7, and it totally freaked her out. Like she
I'm
was
not gonna lie.
so
I watched
freaked
Coraline
out.
and I was like, "Whoa, this is a kids movie?" Like, I was that
And
parent
a
being
kid's
like,
book.
"Oh, cover your eyes." Like,
She got so freaked out, and then she watched The Nightmare Before Christmas around the same time, and she also got freaked out about. I
oh,
don't know
I
what
do
it was
love Nightmare Before
specifically.
Christmas.
Now she's all into all of that. Now she's like, yeah, like. But at the time when she was like 6 or 7, it totally wigged her out, like to the point to where she was like coming into my bedroom and being like, "I hear something in my closet,"
Oh.
and being like, "Okay, I hear you, but no, you don't." So please go the fuck to sleep.
Just let it go. Look, he was friendly, okay? Remember, when it's not Halloween, they're friendly. I would have been
Right.
that person. But now that we're like 10 minutes into the episode, let's get on track.
Actually, we're doing pretty well. That's not that
Okay.
far.
Okay. So you come in, they pull the I like they took a Star Wars intro with this one of well, I mean not like a
Mhm.
long, long time ago, but they're just like some kids
The
are riding down a
rambling.
road. Yeah, and the words are going up and stuff. And then it kind of comes into like it's a dark screen and you hear a lot of rustling and stuff, and then it's like flashing, and then it's rotting hands and faces, and all of a sudden you hear like a radio turn on and they're talking about cases, a grave robbing case, and then it like pans out and it's just dead body art pretty much, and I was like, you know what, pizzazz, I like this. I like this guy. That's why didn't they add that kind of pizzazz into any of the remakes? Like that
None
didn't
of
make.
them.
How did that not make the cut? Like
None of them. Because they
not
were so
one.
focused. Well, remember when all of when the initial remakes came out, like I'm talking Texas Chainsaw 2 and then like 3, like when those initial ones were coming out, it was like 80s and 90s. So they were so focused on the slasher
Mm,
like portion of it because that was peak slasher time. That's when
yeah.
we really moved into like when the original one came out, a lot of the horror was focused around like not slashers, but it was like artistic. It was like very like not spooky or anything, but it was very like what we would call like art house now. Like it was very experimental and like horror was kind of this new genre that they were like exploring, new-ish drama that they were like exploring in the mainstream. So by the time it got to the point to where they were doing the second ones and like all of the reboots and everything, everyone's so focused on the fucking slashers that they neglected any of the other artistic like
Yeah.
pieces of the original movie. Like it all got lost. And even now, we've watched the newest ones. Even
Oh
now,
yeah. And
all
they
of that shit is lost.
well,
It's nothing
because
but just
these days horror is just all about how gory and sexual can you make it. I feel like these
not
days is
necessarily.
Rob
You're not watching
Zombie.
the
I
right
feel like
ones.
definitely went that route.
Oh yeah, Rob
Rob
Zombie is just
Zombie's
pure
remakes,
balls to the wall.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's his own thing. That's like Rob Zombie. But you can't like take Rob Zombie's like aesthetic and apply it to horror now. Trust me. I love horror movies. It's one of my favorite genres ever. Horror movies now, depending on what you're watching, they're not like excessively bloody. That's actually one of B's main gripes with horror movies, especially if they are not rated R, is that they are not messy enough. Like they're too toned down. He's like, "Excuse me. I
And I'm over
expect
here like,
Hostel."
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's too much. They're going
He's
too far these days.
he's looking for Hostel. He's looking for Saw, like
Ugh.
along with like spooky scaries, and you're like, it's a lot.
I'm like, ooh, we didn't need to show that.
No.
I think, honestly, I think I've just been one, I probably am stuck in the Saw era because it's been over a decade since I got to actually just be on top of my movies. I'm like, so I think for me, I am thinking of like Saw and
Yeah,
Rob
no.
Zombie and all
We
that.
have
And
moved.
then I forget that we're a decade out from that and I'm the out of
Yes.
touch one. So I will
Yes.
accept that L.
Yes. You have to take that. I
Yeah,
will
I'll
not
take
allow
that
you
L.
to not take that.
Yeah. So so you get into artistry, love it. And then now we're showing a car on the side of the road. It's a bus. He's pulling out boards. You see like maybe one girl hanging out a window, then like someone else is driving, and it's a
Mhm.
dude in a wheelchair. And you're like, oh, he's got to pee. Okay. And then, but I thought, and I was like, I get why you would pull over, but I'm also kind of like, if he was just going to pee in the bucket anyways, did we really have to stop for that? You know, like
Well, I mean, do you want to sit there and basically be stuck in like a
well,
a
you
3 foot square area of this man just piss? And can he not get some privacy? God damn. God damn. Like at least when he got out, they could all turn away and they're not like staring at him while
just
he's
like
trying to pee in a fucking coffee can. Like you want to demean him even more? Hello.
so his
Jesus.
name's Franklin. Oh, but it gets so much worse for poor
Oh,
Franklin because a
so bad.
truck rolls by and the wind of it, I guess, blows his wheelchair down the hill. And I was like, oh no,
I
Franklin. And
know.
he went rolling out. Franklin's gone. I was like, and at that moment, I was like, oh, I'm in. This is going to be a great movie. Already a good time. Like,
And they showed like the full descent too. They didn't just like cut to
oh,
him like laying on the floor. No, they showed this
no.
entire. This man had to roll down the hill.
And Franklin, for being a big man, a very high pitched voice. This entire movie, he's like, guys, like, which cracks me up every time he starts
Mhm.
yelling somebody's name. So, they're going down the street and they're like, "Oh man, what's that smell?" And it's Franklin's like, "Oh, that's the slaughterhouse. That's where my grandpa used to work." And then he starts going into like gross detail about sledgehammers to cows' heads, and sometimes you got to beat them twice. And the one chick's like, "Oh my god, don't kill animals." So you're like, she's the hippie of the
Yeah,
group.
yeah. She
And
doesn't eat meat, I guess.
all I could think was and I feel so tired because Temple Grandin. I was like, "Oh, so this was a time before Temple Grandin." When he was like, so I was like, callback episode.
Right? No, he was definitely, yeah, he was way too into
Oh, he was,
explaining how many times they had to
yeah,
hit the fucking, yeah. And then he
went
was
into
like, now they
gross
got the
detail.
bolt, yeah, now they got the
Yeah.
bolt gun and they just,
So then they see a hitchhiker, and the guy's like, "Oh, we should stop." And the other people are like, "Don't stop. He stinks."
he looks weird is what they said. He looks
Yeah.
fucking weird. And like at first I was like, when they said that, I was like, come on, man. Like I know we don't pick up people now, but at that time it was pretty normal. So like, why you gotta say he looks weird? And then he gets into the fucking cab, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he looks fucking
Fair.
weird.
It was fair, guys. It was fair.
Fair assessment. I'm sorry.
So, yet he has like a giant scar. He's clearly like handicapped mentally. Um
Yeah.
he's a little all over the place. Oh, but I did find I was like, damn, Franklin just called this dude Dracula like to his face. He was like, "Oh man, we picked up Dracula." Like he's right there, Franklin. He's looking at you. Like he called him a crackhead too. Like
And it's so funny because like he gets so they're in like this they're in a van with
yeah,
only 2 seats up front and the rest is just
yeah,
open. It's like a van you like haul stuff in. And the guy gets in and he's at like the back of the van where all their shit is and everybody else is like pulled forward to the front and is like resting up against the seats and stuff as far away from this man as they can possibly
yeah.
get. And then Franklin's calling him a fucking crackhead.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, that's not a bad assessment based off
It's
of how this
not,
dude was moving and talking.
but you're also like not even whispering. Like most
Right.
people don't
Like,
call the creepy guy the crackhead to their face.
right. It's a little bold. It's a little
It's
bold,
pretty
Cotton.
bold, Franklin. It's pretty bold. So then Franklin like pulls out his knife because back in the 70s there wasn't much else to do but whittle. And I
Right.
recently even talked to my dad about this. There was like a wood sculpture in his backyard. I was like, "Hey, did you ever like whittle?" And he was like, "Yeah, I mean like we whittled as kids. I probably couldn't make something now." And I was like, bunch of old people just sitting there.
Well, he was saying kids. So it'd be a bunch of little kids around with some
Yeah, but in
blocks
74 he was a little kid.
of wood.
Oh no.
That's what I'm saying. But you said old people, but I'm saying it would have been a bunch of little kids around
I'm sure the old people were
with
teaching
blocks
him.
of wood.
And no, they go out back and they
Oh
find
yeah,
sticks.
100%.
and then you whittle the stick. Anyways, so he's pulling out his knife to whittle,
Yeah, he's got a
and
pocket knife
Dracula
and
is
he gets
like,
out and he
"Ooh,
starts like cleaning his, or like I thought he was like cleaning his fingers. He was
oh,
like cleaning his
maybe
fingernails out.
something." But he put, and
Yeah,
Dracula's
he was
like,
like
"I like your
cleaning his
knife,"
fingernails.
and just grabs it. And they're just like,
Yeah, like what
"Hey,
the.
bud, you wanna give me back my knife?"
Oh, but first he pulls out a bunch of pictures from this very much like a squirrel fur
Oh
thing
yeah,
that he's got around his
roadkill
neck, and he
purse.
pulls out, yeah, and he pulls out a bunch of fucking pictures from the slaughterhouse of all the dead cows and starts
Oh.
passing it around. He's got a camera around his neck too. He starts passing all these pictures around like, "Hey, here, look at all the cows that we
Well, and him and
killed."
Franklin hit it off on their love of Slaughterhouse, and they even start having a
Right.
conversation because he's like,
Right.
I hit him with the sledgehammer, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't think they did that anymore," and he's like, "Oh, it's the better way," and he's like, I've been hearing things," and I'm just
Right.
like,
But then everybody gets freaked out by the pictures and basically hands them back to him like,
yeah, they're
"Oh,
like,
no, thank you.
"Wow,
Oh,
thanks."
thank you."
So
And then he
then,
grabs the knife.
yeah, then he grabs the knife. And he immediately goes. They're like, "Hey, bud, what you doing
Well,
there?" And
no,
he goes,
first, no, 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 no. You're missing shit. First,
"No,
he takes a picture of them. He takes a picture of
nuh-uh.
Franklin.
Not yet. That's
He,
after the knife
or does
cutting."
he do that after? Okay,
Yeah.
that was my
So
fault.
uh so he's just like, "Ha ha ha," slide, like eye contact, smiling. And they're just like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." Like,
Like,
and then
put the knife down.
right, so then he
Please
hands him back
stop.
the knife, and I actually in this moment I was like, "Oh, he just wanted to make friends." Cuz like he sees that they're clearly weirded out, and like he looks like, "Oh, that I wasn't supposed to do that." Like, ugh. And then he grabs his camera, and because I was like, "Ooh, cool camera." And it's like one of the first like Polaroid type cameras, so he's like, it's like bigger, and you got to pull out
Mhm.
the thing. And then so he takes their pictures, and Franklin's like, "Oh, well, it didn't turn out too well." And he's like, "That's $2. That's a good picture right there. $2." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Cool. No, we're not giving you $2. Here's your picture back." And he's like, "Well, I guess I'll set this on fire." And he just starts pulling out like
He
aluminum
pulls out
foil.
gunpowder. Yeah.
Aluminum foil first. So when he put out the aluminum foil, I was like, "Is this dude about to do heroin just like right in front of them?"
That would explain a lot, actually.
Well, I was like, so this is where we were. Like we were hinting to it, but now we're just gonna put it out there. But no, he pulls out the aluminum foil, he puts the picture on, and then he pulls out gunpowder. And I was like, "Oh, he's not doing heroin. He's just gonna explode it." Okay. So he sets it on fire, and they're all like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and like pulling over and kicking him out. And he's blowing bloody raspberries and drawing the blood on their car, and like just going nuts and kicking the car. And they're just like, "Holy shit, we're never picking up another hitchhiker ever again, ever again." Oh, and he was like, "You guys want to come to my house? You want to have dinner?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're busy, thanks though, you can just walk home," right? And then
Yeah.
the
Then he
craziness
freaks
kind of
out.
ensues.
Yeah.
So so they're like, "Woo, we're never picking up fucking hitchhiker ever again." uh oh, and he cut Franklin when he set things on fire and everyone was freaking out. He had grabbed Franklin's knife and cut him. And I was like, "Damn, Franklin can't catch a break. He's falling down a mountain." He got to deal with the weird people. And now the weird dude decides to cut him out of everybody. He has to be the one that gets cut.
Right.
So,
When he was the one being nice. He was the
right?
one that was
He
like
was, yeah, the one
friendly.
actually engaging with him in like a meaningful way. So then they pull up to a gas station, and another grotesque growth. And I was like, it's feeling very deliverancy. And I'm really starting to wonder, because that is another movie that came out in the 70s. And I just want to know, what was the deal in the 70s? Like, what was their beef with Southern folk? Because I'm feeling a theme happening here.
The beef was that we are very easy to make fun of. And yes, there was a time when there was a lot of inbreeding simply because there wasn't that many fucking people.
Well,
Like,
it just
it
so
just I
you're very like, okay, so this is just a whole town of just special needs people and but the guy's like, well, the gas isn't here, but I got barbecue. And they're like, well, we're actually going to my family's home. And he's like, you don't want to do that. And I was like, maybe listen to him. Maybe when the gas guy's like, nah, don't do that, you just drive away, you know? But no, they do. So they go inside. He's like, just stay here. You just stay here, eat some barbecue, and you know, don't go. And they're like, well, we'll take some barbecue, but we are going. And we're not going to wait for gas. We'll go ahead to the family home. And then yeah, I was like feeling very creepy. Oh, they get to the home. Okay, so they talk about growing up in this house, right? These people look like they're maybe in their 20s, early 20s, right? This house
Mhm.
is decrepit, like plants growing all through it. I'm like, so it's been abandoned for maybe a decade and it already looks that bad? Jesus. But so they go in. Franklin's freaked out because the one guy put blood all over the car and he's like, "Ooh, you think he marked us for something?" And I
Yeah,
was
it
like,
kind
"Oh
of
shit."
almost looks like a letter. Like it
Yeah.
kind of almost looks like, and he's like, yeah, it looks like he was trying to write something.
Yeah. So, but then they like immediately abandon Franklin. They all go running into the house and he's like, so then he's having to try to get himself inside. And he obviously not handicap capable, like accessible.
Right.
And then, so then he starts blowing raspberries and he's like, oh, are you having fun? And then I was like, was raspberries like a thing in the 70s? Where instead of people being like, were they all like, like,
I think it
fuck
was
you,
just childish.
Jerry.
I think you
Like,
were I think it was just supposed to show like how childish him and the other guy were, because like that is very much something a child would do.
oh
Like stick out
yes.
your tongue and blow a raspberry. I think
Well,
that
that's
that's what it
why
was.
when the hitchhiker did it, I was kind of like, makes sense. Uh, but then when Franklin also started doing it, I was like, oh, okay. I was feeling like a lot of raspberry happening here. Why is everyone doing raspberries? Now I do want to text my dad and be like, did you do raspberries like instead of flicking people off in the 70s? Was that a thing? Which actually, Jarrett should text his dad. He was actually grown in the 70s. My dad was like 10. So he was definitely doing raspberries. Like,
That's funny.
uh, so yeah, so the one couple comes downstairs. So eventually, as everyone rolls out, you realize there's two couples. And then the one girl, you didn't know she was related to Franklin until now because she's like, I grew up in this room. And you're like, oh, and Franklin's already made the comment of, that's my dad's house. So I think they're cousins, but so her and Franklin are related.
Mhm.
She's dating the driver. His name's Jerry. And then you have the two others, and I never got their names. And even when they were screaming through the forest, they only called for Jerry. So nobody cared that these two disappeared.
Yeah, not at all.
We'll get there though. So then the nameless couple comes down to Franklin and they're like, "Hey bud, what you doing?" And he's like, "Fucking being stuck downstairs. What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Hey, you said there was a swimming hole?" And I was like, "See, I thought for sure Franklin was going to be the first to die since he was the first to be left all by himself, but
Right.
Andy's in a
Turns out
wheelchair."
no.
But no. I was like, "Oh, couple going off to have sex? They're definitely dying first." That's classic movie math right there.
Mhm.
Happens. So then I was like, okay, so they're going to go look for the swimming hole. And let's see. Oh, so they get that swimming hole and it's dried out. And they kind of fall into it and I'm like, and he kind of hurts himself and then he they kind of see like a house over in the distance and they hear the generator. So he's like, "Oh shit, they have gas, so we can just borrow gas from them, and I'll
Right.
give them a couple
And they just like
bucks.
walk up. Well, and the
Yeah,
thing is like when they were at the gas station, the guy was like, there's like a lot of property out here, and people aren't really gonna take too kindly to you just like walking up
yeah,
to
and they're
fucking
gonna let you
property.
know.
Yeah, and they'll let you know that they're not gonna take too kindly to that. So like maybe y'all shouldn't be doing this. And now what's the first fucking thing that they do? He
Go
sees a
walk in
weird
someone
ass
else's fucking
populace.
property.
Not even just like a normal house. They
No.
walk up and there's like all these cars hidden underneath mesh
Yep.
that is
Full
to
on
keep it from
souvenir
being
tree.
seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, souvenir tree and
Yeah,
like
with
all of
like
this. And he's
watches and
like,
shit and cans on it, like uh and then I was like,
at
so I
first,
said
when it first
souvenir
popped
tree
up,
and death cars, right? And they
yep.
keep walking and they're like, "Oh, there's the generator," and they can't hear shit. The generator's loud as fuck. And then the girl's name is Pam. Okay, so now I do remember this. Her name is Pam, and she was like, "Let's go." And he's like, "Nah, let's keep walking." And I'm like, "Pam, if you don't leave his ass right now, like, I'm out.
I,
You can go, I'd be gone." So they get up to the front door and like the screen door's there, and she's like, "Come on, let's go." And he keeps knocking on the door and opening the door and going one, and the house looks fucking weird. And I'm just like, why are you this fucking determined? Like, you knocked, you said hello, nobody answered. Get the fuck out of there. What are you doing? But no, he hears pig sounds. And I was like, why? Why? Damn it, white people. Stop investigating shit. He hears the pig sounds, he goes in the house and immediately gets bashed in the face. Like, which I was like, I wasn't expecting the action to come at me that fast, but it came. He was just like, put out, and kept hitting him in the head, and he's like seizing on the floor. And then she's sitting outside on the swing, just like, where to go? Like, so then she walks up to the door, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, Pam, don't do it. Just run away, Pam. But she doesn't. She goes in the house and she hears something, but I I see her like get spooked by something, and she falls into the living room, and there's
mhm.
feathers and bones everywhere. And there's a chicken in a cage. And this movie definitely just dwelled on that a lot. It was like, Pam, feathers, Pam, chicken, Pam, a bone, Pam, and it was like 10 minutes of that. And then you're just kind of like, we get it. There's dead things in the living room. Okay. So
Right.
then
Well, and then it's not just dead things. Like they're made into things. Like the couch is
yes,
like somebody's
all bones.
skeleton just
Yep.
looped over. It looks like fucking Ed Gein.
Yeah. Spoilers. So so then I don't know where he came from. Like, she finally stands up and he's just like, bam, he's right there, and he grabs her and he just lifts her and carries her into the kitchen and just right onto the hook. And I was like, damn, she's dead. And you see her boyfriend's dead body already draped over her, and she's just kind of like wheezing there. And then they show him pick up the uh chainsaw. I was about to just be like, the vroom vroom. They say pick up the chainsaw, and then it kind of like pans out to the house, and you're kind of like, well, there they go. So then it goes back to the other house where Franklin is back outside with the other two, and they're teasing Franklin because he's just like, I think he marked us. I think he's gonna find us. And he's like, oh yeah, Franklin, I gave him your address and everything. He's totally gonna find you. And then Franklin is like poking around in the truck and stuff. So then Carl, I named him Carl, but that's not his name's Jerry. But in this one line, I was like, I don't know what his name is. He decides he has to go look for them because they've been gone for a while. So he heads off and of course finds the fucking house and walks up to the fucking door, and you're like, here we go. And there he goes right inside, and he finds a freezer. And this scene, I was a little bit like, guys, come on. That was terrible. He opens the freezer and she's in there and she's frozen. So you're kind of like, okay, so he took her off the hook and but then she just all of a sudden goes, "Ah!" and then falls back down like dead. And I'm just like, okay, what was that? What was that? Like, so then as that happens, he comes running around, Leatherface comes running around the corner. So then Jerry is like, oh shit, and starts running. But he ends up getting hit in the head. But first Leatherface has to like stuff her back in the freezer, close that, go whack him in the head. But he's very distraught now. And he's like pacing around and he's sitting at the window and they're doing a close in on his weird teeth. And so you're like, oh, he's probably cannibal because those teeth definitely eat things. And then, but he's very distraught. And so you're kind of like, he just realized there's more of them. So then in my mind, I was like, oh shit, is he going to go find the other two? So now, um, it cuts to it's nighttime and the girl and Franklin are just screaming into the night now for Jerry and
Yeah,
only
just
Jerry.
yelling.
Just Jerry. Jerry! Jerry! Honking the horn. And he's like,
Yeah.
I think we should just leave. And she's like, just let me see your flashlight. And he's like, why? And she's like, just let me see your flashlight. And he's like, no. And she's like, you can't. And she's like, starts attacking. And he's like, no, no, I'll go with you. No. Like, and I'm like, listen to fucking Franklin, okay? Don't go traipsing into the woods in the night because one, you're more likely to get just as fucking lost as the person you're trying to look for. Like, yes, get in the van and go find help. Like, but they did discover the keys were gone anyway, so they were kind of shit out of luck. So they do end up she is like, I'm going. And he's like, okay, I'll follow you. And she's like, I can't push you. He's like, I'll follow you. And so he starts following and hold on. So they're walking through the woods and have so he's already established, no, I'm gonna follow you. You don't have to push me. And then the very next scene, she's pushing him. She's pushing him through the woods, and they're kind of like still yelling and stuff. And then, bam, there's
Mhm.
Leatherface cutting Franklin in half, and you're like, damn, bye, Franklin. But there was this really funny scene. So they're yelling in the woods, and she's like, Jerry, Jerry. And then all of a sudden, she goes, Jerry. Like, me and Jarrett were cracking up. We were like, why? Who told her? Like, lower the octave. Like, so then Franklin's cut in half and you're just kind of like, fucking run. Run for your life. And uh so she after screaming, she does end up running and her name's Sally, and I'm like, fucking book it, Sally.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she's running through the woods,
Yep.
and it's so funny because Leatherface is pretty close on her heels, but like she's like being able to crawl through tiny holes, and then he's having to be like, oh shit, like, and it's just like the slowest chase I've ever seen in my life, and just golden. How she's running through, and then when you do see her, she's like, she is like any movie they've ever created to joke on horror films, this is the scene they are joking on. Like the original. As she screams the whole time, just flailing.
Flailing everywhere.
And he's having to stop, which is just even because, like, she's running up to another. Well, I thought it was another house. It was just his house. It's just the back door
Yeah.
of his house. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
but then I was like, well, they never actually made it to the house. So to be fair, she doesn't know it's the house. We just know
Yeah.
it's the house.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Because she's never seen it.
yeah. So, but she like runs up, bangs on the door, and then runs around, and he's coming up, not quick at all, but apparently quick in
No.
his book. And like, he's like, oh, slip, oh, gotta go this way now. Like, he's bumbling around, and she's just like, and I'm just like, if you would just run normally, you probably dust his ass. Like you could be in the next town if you would stop fucking screaming and tuck your arms in and get it. Like, but so she ends up at his house. She runs to the front door. even better. She goes into the house, right? And then she
Right.
shuts the front door, okay, right?
Right. Very
He,
nice. That's very nice of her.
right? She kind of sits there for a second, like, and then she runs upstairs. Okay, fair enough. He is outside, comes up to the porch, and it has to be like, oh, the door's shut. Like, you see him visually go, "Arr!" And then, like,
It's like this moment of I didn't close that. Did she close the door?
right? And then, okay, so he doesn't even check it for one, doesn't even check the handle, and anyway, it's his door, okay? Just immediately starts slashing at it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, he forgot his keys, guys. He didn't. I really wish they would have shown him like patting his pockets. Like,
No,
oh,
you
let me
know
put
what?
this down so I can pat my pockets, find
You
my
know
keys.
what? You know what I think it actually was, honestly, because as I was watching this, like he very obviously was like doing something in the house before all of these fucking random people just decided to show up on his front yard. Like this was not the plan for him today
Yeah.
at all. This was not his plan. He was working on something else down in the basement. And first, the one guy comes in and he's like, all right, well, got to deal
Oh,
with this
bonk.
fucking guy, I guess. Bonk. Take him downstairs. I guess I got more to work with today. But then the girl comes in and she doesn't just come in, right? Like the guy just wandered into his house. Like, who the don't fucking do that for one. But one guy, all right. And then this other lady comes and she wanders into the house and she goes into the living room with all of my masterpieces and she flails all over the place, knocking shit over. There's feathers everywhere now. She's upsetting the chickens. So now I've got to come up and now, all right, I got to fucking deal with this one. You're going to have to wait and I have to put you on my thing. I got to do all of this, okay? And then what happens? A third guy,
A third
a third guy
motherfucker
shows
just
up.
walks into
Third
my
guy
house.
shows up into my fucking house again. I've already got two that I'm trying to deal with. My freezers are full. What the fuck? So I got to take care of this guy. And now it's dark outside. I'm the only one in the house. I've got all these people to fucking deal with. I got all this slashing I got to do. I got to do it quick before they start to fucking molt and fucking become gross, right? And what happens? Now all of a sudden I hear in the darkness around my house, people yelling, and there's
Yeah.
two more of them just screaming and yelling. So now I gotta go outside and I gotta deal with these guys. So now I have fucking five bodies that I have to deal with. So like him being like acting like frustrated at the door being closed, that's what I got out of it. It's just pure frustration of this was not supposed to happen. This was not the plan that I had for today. And I'm here by myself and I have to deal with all of it. The chickens are still upset. Now the pigs are also upset. What the fuck? I don't even
Right.
know. Where did these people come from? I don't fucking know. I don't do we have to hide more things? Do they have a car? I don't know. Now they've barged into my life.
I never thought I
So I
could
feel
feel
like him, like
I never thought I could feel empathy for Leatherface, but now at this point I am like,
I
you know
get
what?
it.
Fuck those kids. Fuck
I
them
get it.
kids. This is what
You
they
were
get.
just trying. You had your routine. You knew what you were doing today. I also get extremely frustrated when I have a plan of the day and it starts to go haywire. So him like dragging her through the house and being like kind of slow and like fumbling with it, and she's like going wild. He's frustrated. These goddamn kids.
So he's now hacking at the door, right? And she's running upstairs. And at this moment, I was like, bitch, if you don't get the fuck out of my face, she runs into this room where clearly there's dead bodies. Like, they are clearly dead bodies. And she's like, help me! And like falls all over the dead body. And then is just like, oh, you're not moving. And then turns around to the woman who is even more of a dead body. And it's like, ah, dead bodies. And you're just like, clearly they were dead bodies. And then comes, I think, my favorite part of the movie. She's running downstairs, right? Well, he's finally made it through the door. So she's like, ah! And you can see where he's like, where he was standing at the stairs going, wonder which way she went. And then she comes to the stairs screaming, and he's like, oh, oh, and like runs up the stairs, like, oh,
That was
there you
easier
are.
than I anticipated.
So, and then
That's
she pulls the
funny.
move that I had to be like, I had mad respect for this move. So she runs, she's like, shit, gotta go the other way. And she just full forces right through that fucking window. Like, no
Mm-hmm.
hesitation, just
Mm-hmm.
whoosh, out the fucking window, straight
Yep.
down. Of course, obviously, gonna hurt, can't immediately stand up to walk. But what I love about his reaction is not, oh, she went through the window. Let me immediately turn around, go back downstairs. No, he goes to the window and is looking around like, oh, where'd she go? Like,
I'm telling you, he's tired. He's tired. He's exhausted from the day that he has had.
okay, so she ends up, so then he like lumbers away from the door and she ends up getting up and running away, right? So in this running scene, she makes it to the gas station. And you're like, okay, I don't think he's gonna be there. And Leatherface is right on her fucking tail. And
Mm-hmm.
but the gas station attendant is there. He does live there, and he lets her in. And Leatherface kind of disappears.
Well,
And
she tries the front door first, and then she goes around and she finds like not the back door, but like another nondescript
yeah,
door
it was
that's
like a little
obviously like
side
employees,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, employees entrance or something, and opens it up and falls onto the floor immediately and starts screaming because the guy gas station attendant is there, and he's like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And she's yelling, "Close the door!"
Oh yeah.
Like he's right there, and he like looks outside and he's like, "There's nobody fucking here." But okay, closes the door and it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. So at this moment, I'm like, okay, she's either fucked or
Right?
he'll help her. But I have
Saved.
a
Right.
really strong feeling that she is fucked right now. And he is very much related to Leatherface and is going to kill her. So at this moment, it's a lot of like her being shaky. A lot of the artistic mode comes in. They're showing the barbecue he's cooking, and she just kind of sitting there. And I'm like, is the barbecue dead body parts? Is she trying to figure this out? But I think it was just them trying to uh, help you feel her
Tension.
adrenaline of
Yeah.
like how everything is just so like because she's so like, oh my god, I just almost died. So he runs out. He's like, I just gotta go get my truck, and then he pulls up with the truck, and he's so just like nonchalantly pulls out a sack and some rope, and he's like, hey, come
Right.
on. And she's like, what the fuck? And he's like, no, no, don't be that way. Don't do that. Don't make me the
Yeah,
bad
don't
guy.
do that. Just come on. Just
Just
come on.
let's do this.
Just get up.
So
Just
she grabs his like machete, and I was just like, and he goes, oh no, and then grabs his broom and bonks her with it, and then
dog the
continues
broom. I
to bonk her with the
the
broom.
broom.
And then I'm just like,
And
broom
she's
beats machete every time. It's everybody knows
well,
that.
she's
She should have
acting
known
like
better.
she's getting hit with like a metal pipe or something. And
Oh,
he's not hitting her with
honestly,
the broom handle. He's not hitting her with the broom handle. He's
no,
hitting her
it's
with
the
the
broom,
bristles.
the bristles, and
The
he's just like,
bristles of the broom. They just whack,
and she's
whack.
like, ow, ow. You're just like, woman, if you don't grab that fucking broom and whack him with it, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So then eventually, because
Zero
she's
self-defense mechanisms.
none, none. So she hits the ground, and he does start beating her with the handle at this point and poking her with it and stuff. And he knocks her out. And he's like, all right, well, now that you're knocked out, guess I will roll you over, tie you on up, get you all in the sacky. And I was like, you know what? This is scary, but you know what? Good on them for not being rapey about it. You know? It
Yeah,
could
no.
have
Nothing at
went way
all.
different.
He could not have cared that she had a vagina at all.
Nope.
He could not have
Tits
cared.
practically hanging out, huge fake tits with big giant nipples that have been like clear as day the entire movie.
Yep.
Which Jerry actually had the nerve to be like, those aren't fake. I'm like, if you don't get the fuck out of my face, those things haven't moved an inch in her any of her scenes. And they're both looking very different directions in
It
a
is.
hard stare.
So listen, the Venn diagram of men who believe that they can accurately spot fake tits, and the Venn diagram of men who say they like women with no or minimal makeup and then pull out a picture of Kim Kardashian is just a circle.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a circle.
Absolutely.
It's the same guy.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. So so she's now in the knapsack. He's putting her in the truck on the floor because bitch can't sit in a chair apparently. She fell on the floor and he gets in the truck and starts it and then goes, "Oh, turn that off," runs back around, turns off the light in his little cabin, shuts the door, and then runs back around like and then even says like a line of like, them electric bills will really get you. You got to make sure you cut them off. And I'm just like, well, at least he's kind of pleasant to be around, I guess. But then he immediately goes, just starts poking her. Like, hey, don't do that. Don't start crying. Poke, poke, poke. Like, oh, I did forget to say. So when she was running through the woods, her hair kept getting stuck in the trees, which would
Oh
slow her
yeah, you're
down.
right.
And I was like, see, this is why I have short hair. I wouldn't die in trees.
I just put that shit up.
Right?
Mine's
And
long as shit. I just put
times
that shit up.
you need a hair tie. Uh man, I really gotta wait for myself. Oh, forgot to close the door. At least he's not rapey. Oh yeah, poking her with the stick. So then he starts like the way he's poking her and kind of talking, you're like, man, he's crazier than Leatherface. Like,
Yeah,
he's
he's real good at
insane.
hiding it. But
Yeah.
he's off the fucking
Like
rails. Like,
he
and it's different because like Leatherface is obviously delayed of some kind. Like he's
yeah.
got something going on. But this guy is just straight up crazy.
Oh
Like
yeah.
just straight up like psychopath.
Yeah.
Like
He's a nutter butter all the way. So so they get her to the house and as they're pulling up, I'm like, well, of course, he's obviously related to Leatherface. Oh, and guess who's there? Hitchhiker. They're all related. And then I was like, throughout the whole movie, Hitchhiker invited them for dinner. He also invited them for dinner. They just stumbled upon dinner, honestly. But like,
mm-hmm.
if they had been trying to kill them this entire movie, uh, because if they had taken them up on their
Yeah,
offer and come to the house, they would be dead. And then they just stumble upon it
right.
anyways, which I find really ironic.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at the beginning, one of the girls, I think the vegetarian or vegan hippie girl was like reading horoscopes
Mm-hmm.
out of the back of a magazine, and she said something about one of the planets being in retrograde and it being really bad and something was going to happen today that would be really bad, and everybody else just kind of like blew her off. And now like you're right, this entire movie they've been trying to get them home.
Yeah.
And they didn't go, but then they ended up right back there
Yeah.
anyway.
Like they kept
Jesus
making the right
Christ.
decisions and then stumbled into the wrong
Until they
ones
stepped into that house.
anyways. Yep.
Until they walked into somebody's house that they didn't know.
Yeah. And then
That's when
honestly,
they fucked
if
up.
they would have just stayed at creepy empty house, they probably would have been fine and then got out of town because this family wasn't actively looking for them. They were just trying to lure them there, but the fact they were going to move on was just kind of like, oh well, all right. But you walked into
Yeah,
the
you win some, you lose some.
yeah. So then uh
We'll try again tomorrow.
yeah, so they get her inside the house and he ties her to a chair whose
Well,
the
he gets
arms of the
mad
chairs are
first.
arms. Yeah.
He gets
Oh,
mad
yeah.
at the
The
hitchhiker
hitchhiker
guy
kid,
because
he
he's like, "You're
beats him
not
with the
supposed to
broom
leave your
too.
brother."
Yeah, you're not supposed to leave your brother,
Yeah.
and I told you stay away from that cemetery. And he's like, nobody saw me, daddy. And he runs
Yeah, and
inside,
he's like, "Look what
and
he did to the door.
yeah,
He
like
fucked
the
the door up
damn
because you
door.
weren't here."
Yeah. So they get her inside, tie her to a chair, and she's still fucking screaming. And now they're all just kind of laughing at her and screaming at her.
Around the table. Yeah.
Leatherface has changed his outfit. He is now dressed as the mother. He's put on a nice little
Mhm.
wig, a nice little dress, and he's not making pig
Mhm.
noises anymore. He's like, because Daddy comes in with the broom, ready to beat the shit out of him. He's like, "You let these kids go," and he's like, And he's like, they all in the freezer. And he's like, he's like, you sure you got them all? And he's like, yeah. And then Daddy was like, oh man, I don't have a reason to beat you. And then he goes, you broke my door. And
Yeah.
starts beating him. So,
Yeah. And then they bring out food. They bring out like the barbecue sausages and
yeah.
stuff,
So it's
and they're
dinner
all just
time,
like
and they're like, go
sitting
get
around the
Grandpa.
table.
Yeah, and they're like, go get Grandpa, and they bring down a fucking corpse. And I was like, oh, he's dead. But then they cut her
Mhm.
finger and they
Mhm.
stick it in Grandpa's mouth, and I was like, oh, I would puke. I would puke right on
Vomit.
Grandpa and all of them.
Yeah, and the man, the fucking corpse starts
Ooh,
sucking on her
yeah, and doing
finger.
like a little happy dance, and he's like, oh, it was gross. It was so
God.
gross. I was thoroughly icked. And
God.
so it does this. I don't like. They had this whole scene where they're all sitting at dinner. Well, she kind of passes out when Grandpa's sucking on her finger, and then she wakes up and
Mhm.
they're at dinner and they're just kind of eating. And she immediately starts screaming again. And then they're laughing and screaming at her. And then she's screaming again. And then they're showing close ups of her eyes. And then the people laughing at her. And then back to the
Mhm.
eyes. And I was just like, oh my
You
God, it's
know,
too much.
the
It was too
when I was
much.
watching that scene, I started laughing because I just can't. I just imagine them because she's like, it's all black behind her when
Mm-hmm.
they're zooming in. So I just imagine her on like a sound stage with like the lights turned off and one spotlight on her face, and they're like, "All right, now look over here and scream. Now look over here and scream. Now close your eyes and scream. Now turn your face this way, scream." And like so how many hours does she have to
Oh,
sit
yeah.
in a chair with a spotlight on her face, just screaming her head off and looking in different
Yeah.
directions to get
For
that
those
shot?
scenes where you're just like, ugh. It was too much
Yeah,
for me personally. I mean, like one or two times, okay, but they milked that
they
shit.
milked it. Yeah.
Oh, it was too much. So then, once all that's fucking done with, they are having a conversation about like, well, who's gonna kill her? It's time to kill her. And the one guy was like, well, you don't get an opinion because you're just a cook. You don't even. And he's like, I don't have a disposition for killing. Not everybody does. We all have our place in the world. And I'm just like, you're super fucking crazy. Like,
Yeah. Like,
so then they're
ugh.
like, well, let's let Grandpa do it. He was the best of us, you know? And they're like, it's Grandpa's turn. So
Fucking
they grab
corpse.
her. Yeah. So Leatherface is setting Grandpa up, getting the mallet into Grandpa's fingers. And he's bending her over and she's trying to fight it. And he's like, hit him, Grandpa. And the one guy's like, get him. And Leatherface is
And
just
the
like,
mallet just keeps
oh,
falling.
yeah,
The mallet just keeps
because he's a corpse. So he's just sitting there like this. And Leatherface is like putting his little
firmly
hand and
grasp it.
he's just like,
Firmly grasp it.
but like
Firmly
they do
grasp
it
it,
like
Grandpa.
6 times. I was like, how many times are we gonna let Grandpa
And then
fucking drop the
eventually, well,
hammer?
eventually, Leatherface reaches down and like holds the hammer in Grandpa's hand and actually manages to get like one shot on her. They show like her bloody back of her head, but then for some reason he doesn't do it again, and they're
No.
not holding her steady, so she's just all over the place, and they keep fucking missing her every
Oh yeah,
single time.
because Grandpa's just like blump, 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 and then so she does get to wiggle away, and she runs right through another fucking window. I was like, you know what? This bitch is dedicated to some fucking windows. She's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And it is now daytime, and they aren't immediately running after her, but she's obviously moving very slow. And I'm like, but where are you gonna go? They're gonna catch you.
Yeah,
Like they
what are
just
you
have to
gonna
jump in
do?
their
You're in the
truck.
middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, and you stuck to the driveway. You didn't even like attempt to go through like the field or something, so at least get the truck out of the equation. Like, so she is like running, and they finally start running after her. And I was like, well, we knew what took Leatherface so long. He had to do a wardrobe change. So he's no longer
Mhm.
dressed as a mom anymore. He's now in his cool guy suit and ready to go.
With this little chainsaw.
Yeah. And he's just like, "Meow," while the other guy's like, I'm gonna get her. So she's all bloody. They hit the main road and a fucking truck is coming. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna
A
get hit.
semi.
And I will say that would have been a hell of an ending. If it would have ended right there with her just getting smashed by a truck
Hmm.
and then credits it, I would have been like, fucking A. Like, talk about an ending. But they did not. She doesn't get hit by the truck. Hitchhiker brother gets hit by the truck, and whoo, do they show it? I will say,
Mm-hmm.
we never get scenes like that, man. It's always like grill,
Cut to
face,
black.
grill,
Yeah.
face, like you know what happened, but they went for it, and especially for it
Every
being
tire.
74, every fucking
Every
tire.
tire.
It was glorious. I loved it. I was like, that you can tell it's a dummy, but damn it, still worth it. I like it. So truck driver, of course, pulls over, and this is where I had to go, okay, now wait a damn minute. So truck driver, bloody girl's running up the truck driver, Leatherface is coming right around. Truck driver got out of the truck and then immediately went, whoa, shit, and got back into the truck. He grabs her. He's in the truck. I'm like, okay, we're in the truck. Drive away. But no, no, we don't drive away for some reason. Bloody girl crawls out the other door,
Well,
and
I
then
think
truck driver.
Leatherface catches up to them and goes to the driver's side and just starts hacking at it with his
He
fucking
is, but he's
chainsaw.
not making it through. So if you would have just driven away,
Right, just
you were
go. You
in
already
the
hit one
driver's
person.
seat. They
You've
both,
already hit a person. What
yeah,
does it matter if you hit
exactly.
another
You
one?
have a, what are you doing? So they both crawl out the other side for whatever reason and start
right.
running down the street. And I'm like, well, was a terrible idea. One, the truck driver's super overweight. You're slower than fucking Leatherface. If anything, you're just cannon fodder for Blondie to hopefully get away. So they're running, and now another truck is coming. So you see the scene where like the two are running, Leatherface is dancing behind them, and now a blue truck is coming, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Stop, stop!" And at first, he was like, "Fuck no!" And he just like goes around them, and I was like, "Oh, he's really gonna go around them," but he didn't. He kind of like swished his tail around and stalled out, so which gave
Mm-hmm.
her time to jump in. So I will say you're kind of torn on, like, was he trying to save her or did he just happen to stall out because he was freaked out and
Right.
she just happened to jump in? So she jumps in his truck, he gets his truck going, and he drives away. And I will say, truck driver went where? Like,
I don't know.
semi driver just kept running. Like,
Yeah, she
weird.
jumps in the bed of the truck and then the guy just takes off and
Yeah.
it's just like what.
And now she's laughing because she got away and he's just dancing in the middle of the street. And
Yeah.
and then it goes, I think financial, what in the world? Oh no. Oh, I was on the
What?
wrong page. I was like, oh my god,
Oh.
whose notes are these are from last week. I forgot I moved my word. But why is that up? You know what?
Doesn't
Can't
matter.
do computers at all. But so yeah, she survives. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
We had one survivor. Fade to black. It was great movie. Still holds up.
Yeah, it was
Probably for
fun.
different reasons. It's fun. It's a good time. It was never meant to be a good time though, so I don't know how the original creators would feel about that, but still a good time.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Like,
I like it.
yeah,
It's
I
fun to
liked it a lot.
rewatch it.
It honestly, I mean, better than that one remake with Paris Hilton in it, Like,
Oh my God, I forgot about that
that
one.
one was so bad.
Yeah, the newest remake wasn't that great either. The newest
I
remake
don't
was
think I watched the
stupid.
newest one.
It was stupid for like the worst reasons. In the newest one, it's supposed to be like, this time period. So
Mm.
they have shit like smart cars and shit. And like part of
Oh,
the whole thing is they can't get the fucking car to work. And like the sunroof, I think, is like open and they can't get it to like close because it's a fucking smart car. So they try
yeah.
to add like technology into it, but they do it in the dumbest fucking way. It was not good. It didn't feel like organic. It felt like, oh yeah, what if we take this guy from the 70s and we just drop him in 2022? Like, how wild and wacky would that
Oh,
be?
what are
How are
the
they going to
antics
deal with
gonna be?
Instagram? Like, that was pretty much it. That was it.
Yeah.
Like, let's give him Gen Z. How's he gonna fight Gen Z? And it's like they make Gen Z so fucking stupid they can't work a fucking car. So yeah, I think the original is probably my favorite of the entire Texas Chainsaw like catalog.
Yeah. This was really good. So now the true story is based off, which incredibly loosely based off. We have to say that first
Hmm.
of all. The majority the this movie's fictional. But it was highly
Inspired.
influenced by the events of that time period, and one event that actually was a little before this time period, but was a serial killer. He's technically not an official serial
Hmm.
killer.
Right.
But the infamous Ed Gein, and he actually would be a a muse for movies like Psycho,
A lot of
uh,
movies. Yeah.
Silent,
Norman Bates.
yeah, any of the Norman Bates stuff, Silence of the Lambs, which a part of me was
Hmm.
like, oh, I do love Silence of the Lambs. We might have to like re-talk about Ed Gein just so I can watch Silence of the Lambs. uh, so a lot of horror was based off Ed Gein. So we're gonna
Yeah,
go
he
with
was at the time he was kind of like the most disturbing story, right? So he
oh
was like,
oh yeah,
this
because
is a
he was
time this is a time before they had the word serial killer. They didn't use that
exactly,
term. This was a time when like a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of weird shit that would happen would pretty much maintain around the area that it actually happened in. But what happened with Ed Gein went nationwide, which was totally abnormal. So like yeah, he inspired a lot of shit. A lot of shit
yeah.
is roughly based off of him and his fucking weird ass hobbies.
Oh yeah. So let's get into it. Born August 27th, 1906, so Ed Gein's a Virgo. Uh, he was born to a drunk father and an emotionally abusive and overbearing mother. But
Hmm.
Ed Gein had a would be diagnosed with schizophrenia and a hell of an Oedipus complex. Ed loved his
Yeah.
mommy a lot.
Yeah. Well, schizophrenia is the label that they like to put. He might not have actually been schizophrenic, but schizophrenic was
Very
the
true.
label that they would put on basically anyone who displayed any type of like harsh mental illness symptoms. So like they probably would have diagnosed me with schizophrenia in that time frame when I'm not. I'm bipolar.
Yeah,
But that was the only word that they had, so they just kind of slapped it around fucking everywhere.
yeah, absolutely. And so always grain of salt, but that was what they back in the 50s diagnosed him with. And that was after all this craziness. So
Hmm.
uh, he actually did have an older brother named Henry, and Henry was disturbed by this Oedipus relationship between him and his mom. So he didn't like his mom that much. So he would actually challenge his mom a lot, especially in front
Hmm.
of Ed, because it would disturb him. So one day in 1944, we find good old Harry on fire in the back lot. And
Hmm.
Ed would be the one who like reported him missing, though I found a couple different like stories of this. But
Yeah.
he once the cops do show up, Ed's able to take them straight to the body. And they found one article that talked about like they found bruises on his head that were would make you kind of be like suspicious, but ultimately it was ruled an accidental death. So while
Hmm.
highly suspect that he killed his brother, never proven, and he never claimed to kill his brother. So Uh, a year later, 1945, Mommy would die, and this would cause Ed to go hermit mode, and we would find out later that he would shrine off where Mommy's spaces were. Like he wouldn't go
Hmm.
in them; they remained unchanged. And da-da-da. soon after mom died, that's when he would get into his new hobby of anatomy and grave robbing. And
Mhm.
mostly female corpses that looked like mommy. And
Mhm.
so he would ultimately be caught because of in 1954 he would go into it's November 6th. Oh, excuse me, 1957. 1954. Why do I feel like 54 was a I might be doing it's his mom's date. I'm fucking dyslexic. Anyways, so November 16th, 1957, he would go into town to a little hardware store to buy some antifreeze. And he would take a 22 caliber rifle off of the wall and then proceed to shoot the store owner, Miss Bernice Warden, 58. And then after he would slit her throat, drag her body back out into his truck, and disappear with it. So later that day, her son was
Mhm.
actually one of the deputies, and some one Ed was the weirdo of town, so he was already kind of like, maybe we should check out that place. And people saw him in town, so it was kind of like, yeah, let's go ask Ed what the fuck he was doing in town. So they go to his house twice, and the first time he's not there. But the one guy ends up walking around the property and seeing her body hanging up by her ankles, head cut off, like she's just a
He's
deer.
draining the blood.
Yeah. And so they're like, fuck, we found her. And uh it this one article gets like really into it, like every little thing he did, but pretty much what would you do to a deer? He did it to her. Uh
Mhm.
so they go inside his house, and it is a house of horrors. They find organs in buckets. Um, they would find 5 human heads wrapped in plastic bags, 4 skulls, and 10 death masks. So, skinned the Leatherface,
Faces.
pretty much,
Yep.
of what inspired Leatherface. And they would also find a belt of nipples, some
Mhm.
vaginas,
Mhm.
they would find a heart on the stove in a saucepan. They would find human heads that had been made into soup bowls. He
Mhm.
also made furniture out of skin, the lampshades, the
Mhm.
couches. Uh, he also had,
He's using everything. He's
oh,
using all of
everything,
it. All the
everything.
pieces he can get his hands on. Yep.
And then they also found suits. So he would wear the death mask, and then he also would wear like the vaginas over his genitals. And so this is where you get the Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. You know,
Mhm.
would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So uh oh, he even has skulls as his bedpost.
Mhm.
Mm.
It was everywhere.
Oh
There was
yeah,
not
everywhere.
an inch of that house that didn't have some weird ass shit in it.
So they thought he like just killed every fucking body, but he was like, no, I've only killed the 2 people. Because he would kill a so I really don't want to say saloon, but that's the word that's stuck in my head. She was a saloon
Like a
keeper.
barkeep.
Yeah, her name was Mary Hogan, and he would go into her place and shoot her too and drag her out. And those are the only 2 murders that he would ever admit to. He said all the other body parts came from grave robbing, and they would go and check this because they thought he was full of shit, but they did find graves had been disturbed and bodies were fucking missing. So, but they didn't and he said that he would go out like in a daze, and sometimes he'd wake up and kind of be like, "Oh, what am I doing here?" and go home. And other times he would find the bodies and feel bad, so he'd put them back. They didn't dig up everybody, so they're just kind of like taking his word for like should somebody be there or not. Um
Yeah, well, they don't really have the technology at that time to like place people by DNA or, I mean, dental records is pretty much the only thing that they would have. And in a town like where he's from, those
Yeah,
are going to be sketchy at best. So, yeah, they didn't really have any way to piece together who was who and what bones went with what or anything in order to get like an accurate idea of how many people he's
yeah,
fucking dug up and turned into shit.
yeah. And then here's an even more disturbing. People soon realized that Gein was no hunter, but he loved to give people venison, causing
Mhm.
people in town to want to fucking throw up when they found out that they probably ate human meat. And
Yeah.
they have there were the two vaginas they found, belonged to two teenage girls. Like I said, Ed would never admit to killing them, but they highly suspect that he killed these two teenage girls and uh, dismembered them. So he would end up going to trial and be deemed unfit pretty much. So he went to the state
Right.
hospital. And then in 68, they were like, okay, you're fit to now do trial. So he was found guilty, and they're like, and you're insane. So back to the state hospital, where he'd moved to another state hospital, then he'd die in 84. So he
Hmm.
spent the rest of his life locked up. But yeah, gross dude. Like, but not,
Insane.
oh yeah, but you know, not as crazy as the shit that was happening in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it wasn't a
Yeah,
whole
not
town.
quite
It
that
was
like,
just Ed, and he
yeah,
wasn't chasing anyone with chainsaws.
right.
So,
Yeah, no, he was just digging up people.
but why I said he's not considered a serial killer is because technically, to be a serial killer, you have to kill more than three people. He technically only killed two,
Right.
though most
Yep.
likely way more than that. They think way more than that. And
Yeah.
so he will go down in history as a necrophiliac, a cannibal, and a murderer, and an artist.
Dog, I can't. Cannibalism is like one of the things that freaks me out the most. And I don't know if it's um like an evolutionary thing that makes it freak me out so bad because we're not supposed to do that. Like you're not when we evolved to not do that, but also just biologically, like human beings eating other human beings, it can fuck you up so badly. Like when we evolved, there was something that happened in our evolutionary time frame that made it so that because other animals can eat the same species and not have those crazy adverse like effects. But human beings, when we eat other human beings, the things that it does to our body and our brains, it's oh my God, it is so scary. And I just think back to like the episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Frank convinces Sweet D and Charlie that they have eaten human meat and they think it's the best thing that they've ever eaten and they start like having like withdrawal symptoms and start like fiending for what they think is human meat. That entire episode I was just like like that's the worst episode to me because I'm like that is one of my biggest fears is to like accidentally somehow in some kind of like Walking Dead situation because Walking Dead did it multiple times of
Yeah,
people eating other people.
yeah.
Finding myself in some kind of situation like that, I think I would just end my life. Like it would cause me so much fear and distress that I would lose my fucking mind. Like I cannot.
I think I'm
Those
eating
are
the
the
people. Like, honestly, if you're
I
talking
no.
end of the world situation, now I don't
No,
think I could actually trap
you're
and
gonna fuck
kill
yourself up.
anybody.
Look up
Well, it's
prions.
already end of the world. What am I saving it for?
See, people say that all the time, especially now. You have everyone being like, "Man, if the world ends, I'm just going out. I'm not doing it."
I
But
just
I'm
want to
so
go out.
fucking
Honestly,
stubborn.
that's
I'm
one
so
reason I like where I live because I'm blast zone, baby. I'm disintegration. So,
Oh, I'm even more of a
yeah.
blast zone than you are, but I'm so fucking stubborn that I would like it would honestly just piss me off so much if some shit happened like zombies or something. Like I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it.
I
Like I have
warned
shit
you,
stashed
bitches.
away. I have plans in place in case B thinks I'm
No.
absolutely nuts. Like when we got when we got one of the Biden the things, the COVID relief funds or whatever, I spent a portion of it and I bought like a full first aid kit and a radio that you like one of the wind up and then it has like solar panels and you can also like charge devices on it and stuff. Like it just total like survival
Yeah.
bullshit. He thought I was fucking nuts. And then he came to me, or I sent him a screenshot of like a week or two after I bought all of that shit and got it all set up and had my like whole little stash set in place. The fucking government released a what to do in the case of like a zombie apocalypse, basically like call sheet of like what would happen governmental wise. And I sent him a screenshot of it and he was like, maybe you're not that crazy. And I'm like, I fucking know I'm not that crazy, but I am so like if some bullshit was to happen like that, I would be like, no, there's no way. There's no way that I've lasted through all of this and you're going to take me out like this. No, fuck you. I'm I'm gonna be fine. We're getting out of here. I know what to do. I've studied everything. We're gonna be fucking fine. Fuck you. Fuck your fucking
Well, I do
scientists.
think
God
so.
damn it.
This is where I am. So look, I probably couldn't kill myself. So either I gotta go first blast, like
Right.
shadow person on wall, or then I end up like you, where I'm like, fucking A. Well, I guess now I gotta survive. Thanks a lot,
Just come
God.
find us.
And
Well,
then,
I'll put you guys on the
bitch,
list of
I'm
people we gotta go to.
you can
We gotta
try,
pick
but
up.
I'm hitting the water. That would be my I'm going water, baby. Like my ass is
That
heading to the
was
beach. I will
I have
swim out.
multiple yeah, I have
Like,
multiple plans and getting to a source, getting to where we're backed up against a large body of water, like
hmm.
the ocean, getting to that kind of area, that's the number one plan. If that plan falls through, I have other plans. But the
See,
number one
that's where
plan is to
I'm
get to
lucky.
where my back
Already
is to
there,
water.
already
Right.
here. So I just gotta get up the street. I'm hitting the
We'll
water.
come to you.
Yeah, we'll be like,
Yeah, no, but I'm not, you're not taking me out like that. You take me out with the first wave or you're not taking me out at all. I am
yeah. Well, that's what
just
I'm saying.
stubborn enough
That's
to
when,
say
yeah,
fuck
I probably
off.
would. But like I said, I couldn't kill a body, so then I'd have to be the person eating dead people. Like I'd be the scavenger hiding behind a tree
No,
and be like, "Oh, they killed him. Fresh meat." And
no,
scurry over there and get it. Like,
absolutely not. Look up fucking prions. No, there's no way. There's no way. That freaks me out so fucking bad. Like the necrophilia and the skinning people and like making shit out of it. Like, yeah, that's freaky, that's bad. But the cannibalism, no. No, just take me out. just just fucking take me out, dog.
just push you off the ship.
I'll I'll walk out into the sunset. Like just don't I'm not doing it. I just that's my line. I'm not doing it. I don't care how hungry I am. I don't care how dire things are. Get no. Fuck off.
So you're going
Fuck
down.
off.
You're just like, I will
Yeah,
shrivel up in this
just take me
corner.
out.
I won't eat it.
I'm not eating it. No.
Yeah,
There's
I'd
fucking
be like,
mushrooms.
I'm
You
like, just
can
let me
literally
taste it.
eat grass. I'm not doing I will eat leaves. Don't
But no, you
full
can't.
giraffe mode.
We're out
I'm
in the
not.
ocean. We've stolen a battleship from the
And
yard.
there's a whole fucking ocean of fish. Get out of here. I know how to clean a fish.
You can't fish from that height. She's like, try me. You try me right now.
What did I say that I had plans? No, we're not doing it. We're not. I'll kick you off of the ship. You'll go. The fucking cannibals can get off. Not me. You're the one making the wrong decisions.
You're
Not
gonna
me.
use
I'm
us
the
as
sane
bait.
one here.
We're gonna.
I'm the sane one.
Are you gonna strap me and throw me to the side and be like, "Come on,
I'll
orcas"?
catch a shark. I'll have, what are those things called? I can't even remember. The big spears that they use to hunt like whales and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I'll
the
string you along. We'll
harpoons.
drag you behind. We'll drag you behind the ship so that the sharks just, whoo, fresh meat.
What's
Fucking
that?
got them. Don't play with me.
I'm like, I just tried to tow. You're like, sucks for
No.
you. You're out.
Bye. Jack Sparrow, walk the plank. Off with thee.
All right. And on that note, we'll see you guys next week.
Christ.